Hey, Sassy Stuff. I'm Emma here with Molly, back with another locker room talk. And it broke over the weekend that Nico Iamaleava is officially leaving Tennessee, going to enter the transfer portal on April 16th. I know there was a little bit of back and forth. We were unsure of whether or not he was going to stay when he did sit out of that practice. A lot of people assumed he would be at Tennessee's spring game. He wasn't, and it broke that he's entering the transfer portal. He wanted $4 million from Tennessee to be their starting quarterback. His current contract would have given him $8 million by the end of his third year. Um, I don't blame him for renegotiating, but that is a big ask, in my opinion. So, how do you feel about all this, Molly?
Um, you know, I feel like the entitlement these days is crazy. I think, he is a good quarterback. I think that's just that's the truth. He's a great quarterback. Do I think that a college quarterback should be earning $4 million a year? And this is where it's just you get a little blurred lines here with the NIL. It's a tough one. If it was my son and I was like, yeah, like get your bag, I get it. But also at the same time, I kind of think it proves his loyalty to like how he is at the school. Like he's not there for Tennessee. He's there for his paycheck. And so that's kind of where it starts to bother me with the cross between NIL and college is I think you should go and play for a school because you want to be at that school. You want to get an education from that school. You want to play for the staff at that school, the coaching. So I'm really not a huge fan. And I'm kind of unhappy. I'm just unhappy with him in a way because I think also not showing up to spring practice, there was still, it was kind of like the rumor mill was going around and we didn't really know what was going on, but we didn't know that he was completely just not going to show up to practice or do any of those. And I think that there's just something to me I love to see athletes' character, and I feel like that just isn't a good look for him and his character, in my opinion, especially when you're looking at going into the pros.
I mean, this is why Nick Saban left officially because he's like early on, it was what can I learn from you? What can
Mhm.
you teach me about this sport? How can you elevate my performance so I can make it to the pros? And now it's how much can you pay me? And Saban didn't like that, so he got out. Coaches obviously don't like it. You can't build a team anymore. It's just crazy. Josh Heupel, he did make some comments. He said, the state of college football, at the end of the day, no one is ever bigger than the program. That includes me too. He emphasized the team's opportunity to move forward with the players that will give their all for Tennessee. So obviously, Nico Iamaleava was just there for the paycheck. He wasn't excited to play for this team or this program. He had a pretty decent year. Last year, he did make it to the college football playoffs. Didn't play well against Ohio State by any means. But this is kind of setting a bad precedent of what it means to be a player in college right now. And you look at how much these kids are getting paid, it's more than a rookie contract in the NFL. So even going to the pros, you're getting paid less than you would in college. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, I actually just looked up the NFL rookie salary and it starts at about $840,000. And some rookies obviously that go in the first round are maybe in the low 1 millions. But I think that's a big reason why a lot of these college athletes are staying in college is because they're making money. And I get it. Like also, Livy Dunn commented about this because she did a fifth year at LSU and somebody made a comment about how she was only there for the NIL money. And she said, no, I love the sport. And I do agree with that. I think gymnastics is a little different because she's genuinely aging out of the sport. She's hit her prime. That's a thing. But for somebody like a football player who is going to go on to the pros and have, possibly another 10-year career out of it, making just as much, if not more money, it kind of doesn't really make sense to me to continue to stay.
Exactly. And I mean, I don't know who will be Tennessee's quarterback moving forward. I know they have a true freshman and a redshirt freshman there right now. Maybe they go into the spring transfer portal window and get somebody there. That's always a possibility. But I like that Josh Heupel kind of put his foot down. He was like, "No, I want you to buy into this program. We pay you enough already." I mean, he gets paid a crazy amount. Maybe if
Yep.
he was able to take his team to the playoffs again, which I thought he would. I thought they have a pretty good schedule. I think he would obviously have grown. It's been another year. I thought that they could easily make the playoffs again. And then maybe you can renegotiate. Maybe you make the SEC championship this year and you win. And then you can say, hey, I think I'm worth more. And then absolutely, but you have to continuously prove yourself if you want a pay raise. And just
Yeah.
1 year is not enough, in my opinion. So it is going to be interesting where he goes. He obviously can't go in the SEC in this spring portal window because then he couldn't play this next year. So we're looking at teams like UCLA, USC, Notre Dame. They lost Riley Leonard to the draft, so that could be a place he could land. UNC with Bill Belichick could be a good location. And then there's a little drama with, Dan Lanning at Oregon. It seems like Dan told, um, Josh Heupel that Nico's team had contacted him, and that was kind of how he got tipped off. So maybe he could have gone to Oregon, but I just don't think so. I don't think Dan Lanning likes that kind of player who's really just in it for the money. But Oregon did recruit Iamaleava out of high school before he switched. So it is interesting to see where he will land in this 10-day window.
I think I kind of personally like that rule. I think if you are leaving your program, you should leave the conference. I've always been a fan of that rule. I could see him potentially going to play for Bill Belichick. I, I think really right now it's just like what staff, what team is going to take on somebody that's kind of like abruptly left, kind of like he did. That's why I think, he definitely could have played nice a little bit more and been a little bit more loyal to his team. And I think that was kind of what Dan was pointing out at Oregon, just like, hey, you're under the radar, you're doing some sneaky stuff. That's not really how I roll.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting where he goes. I could definitely see him probably at UNC or maybe Notre Dame. Um, but I mean, everybody's so stacked right now. Like I look at everyone's rosters and I'm just like, you know, everybody looks great this year, especially since spring training has been starting. I've been kind of watching that and it's like everybody's looking good. So I don't really know who needs him.
But also, who can pay him that much at this point in the year? Because we are in the spring portal window, people have gotten their contracts already with their NIL deal, so it's kind of late for this. I could see UCLA just because he's a Southern California native, but they
Mhm.
did have an App State transfer already. They technically do have a QB vacancy there, but they also have somebody, and who knows if they can pay it. I
Mhm.
think with Bill Belichick coming in, like you were saying, I think they would put out more money, but I just don't know if he's gonna get his 4 million for what he has produced so far. And going into that, I kind of want to compare Carson Beck to Nico Iamaleava because Georgia and Tennessee had similar schedules last year. So I'm looking at Carson Beck, who did get that $4 million deal at Miami, but he also won the SEC championship, beat Texas twice when the majority of people picked against Georgia to win those games, has taken his team to the playoffs. If he would have been healthy, who knows how those playoffs would have gone for Georgia. And so comparing their stats from last year, I mean, Carson Beck has almost 1,000 yards on Nico Iamaleava, and the percentages are similar. Nico obviously uses his legs a little bit more, but the offense produce it's almost 1,000 yards more for pretty much uh, the same rigorous schedule. I mean, Georgia played Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee also played. Um, Alabama as well and beat Alabama, so which Georgia did not. So, I mean, both teams had their strengths, but I'm looking at Carson Beck, and he just demonstrated, like, strong passing capabilities with higher yardage. So I think he had a stronger performance, and he has more on his resume to justify the $4 million. He's also played this would be his now 3rd year starting
Mhm.
as, QB1. So, Nico, this is his 2nd. So it's just greedy. It's greedy.
It's very greedy. I think there's also, like, a level like, there was even that rumor, and it was a rumor, this is not confirmed, but that, like, before Quinn Ewers declared for the draft, he was offered, like, $6 million from some other team. This is a lot of money for these kids. I'm like, "What is going on?" Like,
For
I
anybody.
it's like, it's a lot of money. That's more money than most of the like, the rookies in the NFL are making. So I'm like, "What is happening?" And I know college football makes a lot of money. Like, I get it. Like, the schools are profiting off these kids, and yes, they should be paid. But I'm like, "Geez, you know, I just can't imagine going up to the school and being like, 'Give me $4 million.'" Like, it's just
I know,
it's an
with
entitlement.
1 year under your belt, and honestly, like, he was kind of wishy-washy half the time. They had that fantastic running back, Dylan Sampson, who kinda led the charge for Tennessee, and I was always like, "If Dylan Sampson's on and this is Dylan Sampson's game, then they're gonna win." So, I mean,
Yeah.
that was the shining light of their team last year. If you made yourself like you were the reason you won every single game, then I would be a little bit more like, "Oh, okay, yeah, maybe he does deserve that money," but he wasn't. He was a good contributing factor, but it wasn't all on him. So, it's just a little bit like,
No, no, we're grateful for what we have. And I understand like renegotiating, maybe a little bit more money or maybe like a better deal of some sort. Maybe it's not with the money, but playing time or how the season's going to roll out. I understand renegotiating, and I think you should have a really good team of attorneys and PR people around you to do that. But to come in with a demand of I want double my salary because that kid has it over there at that school, it's kind of it's very entitled. It's very greedy, and I think he really showed a lot of who he was as a person versus a player during this deal. And I don't know how many other colleges A could pay it or B really want somebody in their program that is so wishy-washy as a person versus a player.
yeah. And,
Mhm.
like, you best believe the NFL is watching, and I mean, that is the ultimate goal, is going pro. You can only stay in college so long. I know, Diego Pavia vouched for him getting another year, and a lot of these students are getting additional years, but you can only stay in college for so long. And if you want to continue, you have to go pro or you can go to the UFL, whatever. But it's just it doesn't look good to recruits in the NFL, when you're gonna go get drafted. They're like, "Well, if he's not getting paid enough, he's gonna leave my team, and I need him, to be loyal to this franchise, to really build something around this player." So it just doesn't set a good precedent. Good thing he has a few more years of eligibility to really, help his case moving forward. But I think if he wanted to renegotiate anything, it should have been the incentive. So if I get you here, or if I win the SEC championship, I want this much instead of this much. I think that would have been better because then it's based on your like how well you play. So I mean that's kind of where I would have gone. It will be interesting to see where he lands, and we can talk about it then. But this is one of the negatives now of the transfer portal, and it doesn't make us feel good as fans. It's like you were beloved by Tennessee. Everyone had their Nico Iamaleava jerseys, and you kind of betrayed your franchise. So it's sad, and we won't miss you because obviously you don't miss Tennessee.
Well, guys, you guys let us know how you feel in the comments. I know we had a lot of Tennessee players or Tennessee fans commenting last year, so I'm interested to see how the Tennessee fans are feeling. How are you guys feeling about the NIL and the transfer portal and all this crazy stuff? Go ahead, follow us on social media, comment below what you feel, subscribe to our page, and we will see you next week on Locker Room Talk.